So, Concord was finally revealed to the world, and it didn't go down well, so let's talk about it. Hello there everyone, it's Aaron here from Push Square, and Sony finally unveiled the first of its first-party live service games at a recent State of Play. Concord is a colourful 5v5 first-person hero shooter set within the vibrant sci-fi setting of the Concord galaxy. It's developed by Firewalk Studios, a new first-party dev team made up of some ex-Bungie talent, and the game is set to drop on PS5 and PC on August 23rd, with a beta coming sometime in July. However, the masses have already spoken, people. Sorry guys, the game is cancelled. Before we've even had an extended gameplay preview, people have been furiously disliking and commenting on just how dead on arrival this game is. And I just have to ask, is it though? During the State of Play, we got a 4-ish minute CGI cinematic establishing the world and some characters, a handful of quick interviews with the devs, and eventually a trailer filled to the brim with gameplay. Call me stupid if you like, but I thought it all looked pretty good. Sure, Guardians of the Galaxy style humour, it isn't the best, it's not entirely my thing, but I am a sucker for a vibrant sci-fi world, and an even bigger sucker for a fresh new PvP shooter. A lot of the issues I've found online seem to stem from the fact that Concord is a hero shooter, with the most prevalent comparison being Overwatch 2. Now this is a subgenre that a lot of people have seemingly deemed is outdated, dying, and something that no one really wants. So why would Sony release a game like that in 2024? Well, that's because despite what everyone says, people actually do like and want games like Concord. Now before you sharpen your pitchforks, do I mean that this will be a guaranteed hit? No. Do I think this looks like the best game in the world? No. But let me explain why I think that this isn't as dead on arrival as people say. For starters, let's look at the hero shooter genre as a whole. Obviously, Overwatch is the first one that comes to mind for most people, with its second game not really being the revamp that many people had hoped for, but reports indicate that millions still tune into this team-based shooter every single day across all platforms. The same could be said for Apex Legends, Valorant on PC, Rainbow Six Siege, which just broke its peak concurrent player record on Steam 9 years after its initial launch. And in the same breath as Concord getting dubbed an Overwatch 2 ripoff, we have Marvel Rivals coming this year, also showcased at the State of Play, a third-person hero shooter with very obvious Overwatch vibes, but for some reason that one gets the pass and it's already accumulated over 1 million wishlists on Steam. Then you have hero shooter adjacent games like Destined 2, which just launched what could be its biggest season yet, and even games with hero shooter influences like The Finals, which uses light, medium and heavy builds, or Battlefield 2042, which has characters with unique skills, or even a recent example in XDefiant with its factions. So the hero shooter isn't just limping along towards an inevitable death, it's actually thriving. Of the games I've mentioned here, Destiny 2 and Apex Legends are even a part of the 10 games that took up 51% of the PS Store revenue in 2023. These can be big hitters. Now if you really want to get into things, hero shooter games have been cutting about for years with the likes of League of Legends creating preset gameplay roles, whether those be healers, tanks or sprightly glass cannons. Maybe it has a new name now, but the hero shooter has been around for years and I think it'll stick around for a while longer. So why do people hate Concord so damn much? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with expectation and association rather than the actual game itself. Concord took up a pretty meaty spot at the latest State of Play, a showcase where people are left to speculate about all sorts of wild PlayStation exclusives. Part of the issue there is Sony's lack of communication, I think. If you're quiet for long enough, then people will obviously start to come to their own conclusions or read into things a little too much. That's why I've actually appreciated that Jeff Keighley comes out of the gate telling you what won't be at its Summer Games Fest. Then we have the association of PlayStation being the home of single player games like Spider-Man 2, Horizon Forbidden West, Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Sony for sure has crafted up a reputation as the type of publisher that makes single player games. So when it has a showcase and it says, we're making a new live service PvP game instead of I don't know, Uncharted 5, then there's a disconnect and a whiplash there, especially when you start the presentation of said live service PvP game with a full cinematic. But the association goes even further than that. Live service on its own seems to send a shiver down the spines of gamers. In some instances, yes, it's totally warranted. We've seen single player developers turn to live service and it hasn't really worked out. We've seen countless online games shutter their services and move on to something else. For sure, it's a risky business and one that we have become rather cautious of. But looking back on that 51% revenue, every one of the games in there is live service to some degree. So clearly, people are playing these types of games. Good can also come from live service, as we've seen with Helldivers 2, which sold more copies in less time than Spider-Man 2, granted across both PlayStation 5 and PC. Now the PC launch thing, that's clearly a pivotal part of Sony's strategy, since Concord will launch on both platforms day and date. And not only that, but Concord will also launch at a reduced price of £35 here in the UK. But all of this here is a lot of talk about the wider picture. What about what we actually know about Concord that we should be excited about? The big thing that sticks out to me is that Firewalk Studios is made up of a lot of ex-Bungie devs, specifically devs that worked on the PvP side of Destiny and the Crucible. It was never the most balanced PvP offering in the world due to the multitude of build options in that game, but it's still a lot of fun to this day. Now that team seems to be concentrating first and foremost on the tight control of its gameplay, which is supposedly inspired by fighting games, and I think you can see flashes of that in the gameplay trailer. I'd love to know more about the objective-based nature of its game modes. It seems like the aim for at least one will be to keep a hold of this thing, which featured in the cinematics. It's cool to hear that some throwable materials like healing pads, path blocking walls, and dome shields can persist across rounds and respawns, and of course there will be a lot of meta to contend with due to the 16 characters being available on launch. I mean, this dude here, One-Off, is someone that I am very interested to try out. It looks like it will be entirely wind based, whether it's sucking up bullets, deflecting them with these wind throwables, or blasting enemies around with these canisters. In the PS blog it was mentioned that we'd see skills and abilities new to the genre as well in some of its characters. Now in terms of world building too, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of the humorous tone that it takes, but I do love the aesthetics of this universe. And who knows, maybe we'll all come to love the green guy, Lennox, and his hot sauce obsession in the game's weekly vignettes, which seems like an insane promise considering the visual quality of these things. I'd imagine they will have a lot of them figured out already, and they probably have a grace period in mind to see whether it would be worth sinking more money into it down the line. But as someone that loves lore in multiplayer games like Destiny 2 and Apex Legends, I'm curious to see how the weekly story drops work out for both the community and the developer. Now, being a paid game is an interesting thing in the current landscape, especially for a PvP shooter where a lot of other examples are coming out as free to play. It certainly seems to be taking the Helldivers 2 approach, with new characters, game modes and maps coming in the form of free post-launch updates, and I'd imagine that the skins are the payable aspects of this game because that's just how things go now. Now hopefully it really is like Helldivers, where these cosmetics are actually fairly affordable. Free-to-play games can get a little bit greedy with these prices of their skins, so hopefully the upfront charge helps Firewalk avoid those crazy prices. Getting your full squad to shell out for a paid game might be a wee bit difficult these days, but the £35 price tag, it isn't the worst in my opinion. Clearly they're putting an emphasis on getting people to play this game, because if you pre-order it and you get access to the early beta, it will also give you the codes to share with 4 other friends. Now of course at the end of the day though, we've not actually played this game, so all eyes are going to be on that beta in July. If it really is a dud, then I'll be the first to put my hands up, but I found myself getting kind of annoyed as everyone just made up their mind saying they hate Sony for making making live service hero shooters like they're some kind of proven dud that nobody wants, when in fact, I mean, that clearly just isn't the case. If it was, we wouldn't still be talking about Overwatch. We wouldn't have these live service games entering their 10th year. Now, is this the most original idea in the world? Of course it isn't, but why shouldn't we celebrate a new IP from a multiplayer developer? There also seems to be some belief that a multiplayer game like Concord coming out is somehow stopping us from getting the single player games that Sony is known for, when literally this year, Naughty Dog cancelled its Factions 2 to focus on its single player offerings. Multiplayer is a space that Sony has been lacking in the exclusive department forever basically, and I for one am glad that they aren't just focusing on single player stuff but also trying to broaden their portfolio with some multiplayer titles. But all of this is to say, I think Concord has had an unfair rap from the PlayStation community, and I think we should give it a chance. It really doesn't look half bad. But anyway, thank you for watching everyone. This has been a big old rant from your boy. Let me know what you're thinking about it all down in the comments below. Do you think we should hold off till we've actually played Concord to pronounce it dead, or are you just not feeling it? What do you think about Hero Shooters 2 in 2024? Let's have a discussion about it all down below. But until next time, I've been Aiden, and this has been Push Square.